Hi, my name is Kirsten Hope, and I am a certified Body Talk practitioner and Quick Pulse practitioner, as well as an intuitive healer. I've been in practice for 17 years, and I work with people all over the United States and, in fact, all over the world as well. I put this video together today to show you a technique, a fundamental technique in balancing the brain and, in essence, balancing the body. It's called the cortices. And what we're going to do is we're going to balance the cortices. Now, the benefit of this is tremendous because you see the cortex, the cortices, is the outer layer of the brain. Inside the cortex is the limbic brain, and inside the limbic brain and down the spine is the reptilian brain, the primal brain. So the primal brain is the oldest part of our brain. Then we have the limbic brain, which is the emotional processing center. And we have the outside, the cortex. And if you see a picture of the brain and you see all the wiggles and squiggles, that's the cortex. Running down in the middle of the cortex, of the middle of the brain, is something called the corpus callosum. And it runs right down the middle, just like a part in your hair. So it runs just like this, okay? What that means is that we have a left side of our cortex and we have a right side of our cortex. What we know is that in order for our body and our brain to function properly is it has to have really clear communication. Just like the relationships in your life, the better your communication, the healthier the relationship. Same with at work, same with anything. The better the communication, the more flow we experience. And the same is true for our body, and the same is true for our brain. So to bring that flow into our lives, we have this technique called the cortices. The cortices is one of the fundamental techniques taught in the Body Talk system. In fact, it is the first technique typically taught to practitioners. So what's so important about the cortex? Well, the cortex represents our entire body. What we know is that any illness in our body is represented in our brain at some level. So we want to make sure that the communication is always flowing in all ways, states, and functions. Okay, so that brings in the cortex or the cortices. So we have the right side of the brain, and I'm sure you've heard that, the right side of the brain, and we have the left side of the brain. And again, just like perfect communication in a relationship, we want perfect communication in our brain. And when we have that communication, what it does is it calms down our nervous system. What it does is it calms down our energetic body so that we can be more balanced and responsive in our experience of the world. Okay, so to balance the cortices involves three things. It involves hand placement, four things: hand placement, breathing, intention, and tapping. So hand placement, breathing, tapping, and intention. Okay, so I'm going to go through those four and then we're going to do the whole technique together. Okay, so let's talk about the tapping first. In Body Talk, we tap at three levels of the body. We tap the head brain, which is our thinking brain. We tap our heart brain, our heart complex right here, which is our feeling brain. And then we tap our gut brain, which is about halfway in between your navel and the bottom of your rib cage. And that's our anchoring brain. Okay, so when we tap our head, we're saying to the brain, wake up, pay attention to my intention. When we tap the heart complex, we're bringing that into our essence. Okay, and when we tap our gut brain, we're anchoring it into our experience. We're embodying the balancing. Okay, so that's the tapping sequence. The breathing is we work within a detoxifying breath. The detoxifying breath is you inhale in through the nose and you exhale out the mouth. Detoxifying breath is in through the nose and out through the mouth. Okay, so that is the tapping, that is the breathing. Now I'm going to show you the hand placement, and the hand placement is really easy as long as you remember you've got that part down the middle of your brain. It's called the corpus callosum, and the brain sits right here above the ears, above the forehead, and down along the back of your hairline. Okay, so we're going to touch all of those places. So if you imagine that you have a part down the middle of your hair and you take your hand like this with your fingers together. You want to place your hand at the base of your head like this, so that half of your hand is on one side of that part and half of your hand is on the other side of that part. Okay, so that's position number 1. Once we're done with that position, you're just going to stair step your hand up. Okay, and then the next position is up one more, and then one more, and then all the way to your eyebrows. And then the last hand position is at the sides of your head. These are your temporal lobes, and you can see my hands are right above my ears. Okay, so those are the hand positions. The last thing we talked about is intention. The intention is I am balancing my cortices. I'm intending that my left side of my brain is talking to my right, and my right is talking to my left. Okay, so we're going to put that all together. We're going to put a hand placement. We're going to tap our head, our heart, and our gut brain. We're going to breathe, and we're going to intend. Okay, so let's begin. So go ahead and get all comfortable. Your hand is here. Your fingers are together. They're not like this. Hands together. Put your hand at the base of your head, and then you're just going to intend. You're tapping really gently. Breathing. And what I'm doing is I'm imagining, actually, all the neurological connections reaching from my left brain hemisphere and reaching in and touching the right hemisphere. So I'm seeing this happen, okay? If you're a verbal person, you can just say out loud or to yourself, I'm balancing my left side of my cortex to my right and my right to my left. And we're tapping above the heart brain and tapping above the gut brain. Okay. There's not a certain number of times you need to tap. You can just tap with your breath. Tap as long as you feel inclined to. Okay, so now we're going to move your hand up. One more hand's width up. Big breath. You can visualize those connections reaching towards each other, tapping above your heart. Or you can intend or say to yourself, the left side is talking to the right side is talking to the left. Now we're going to bring your hand up. And this, of course, when you're tapping above your head, your hand is there, so you can just gently tap right above the hand. Big breath, setting that intention or visualizing and tapping above the gut brain. Now move your hand forward one more hand's width. Some of you might be at your eyebrows already. Some of you might not be. Deep breath. I'm balancing my cortices. The right side's talking to the left, and the left side is talking to the right. Tapping above the heart, storing that change. Tapping at the gut brain, anchoring that change. The last place is we're going to go right on the sides of the head. The heels of your hands at your temples, you can just wrap your hands around. This is a very forgiving technique, so you don't need to worry about being perfect. Release one hand, either hand, and tap gently above the head, setting that intention. The left side's talking to the right side's talking to the left. Tapping the heart brain, storing that change. Tapping the gut brain, anchoring that change. And there you go. You've balanced your cortices. I like to do this every morning when I get up. It's the very first thing I do before I have anything to drink or do anything. I balance my cortices, and I do that too when I get into bed, and it just helps settle down my nervous system. It brings me back into my body, and it releases the tension from the day. So I wish you good luck. If you have any questions, let me know.